The question we often ask ourselves is whether we can live by Nietzsche's philosophy. Whether, just as people live by the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Vedas, the Gita, and so on and so forth, whether one can live by Nietzsche's writings in a similar way. Not just Zarathustra, but all the writings collectively as one huge compendium, and can, therefore, one live only by Nietzsche and Nietzsche alone. That to me is the true sign of a philosophy to live by. If Nietzsche's works are all you need, then surely that is a philosophy you can live by. And Nietzsche's philosophy is structured in such a way to make this possible. For example, we have the central piece, Thus Spake Zarathustra, the mythic, quasi-spiritual piece, the centerpiece of his philosophy. And then we have the explanations of that philosophy thereafter, with Beyond Good and Evil, the genealogy of morals, the twilight of idols. And we have the preliminary pieces prior to Zarathustra, leading up to Zarathustra, daybreak, the dawn of day, the joyful wisdom into Zarathustra. And prior to that, we have the early Nietzsche, and we have the late Nietzsche culminating in the Antichrist. And as the background to all of this, we have the Will to Power and the complete notebooks and unpublished works. In other words, in Nietzsche, we have a world, a whole world, intellectual, spiritual, practical, creative, and it's all there in Nietzsche. In other words, the point is that in Nietzsche, you can have everything you need. You don't need any other books, any other writers, any other thinkers. You can survive alone with Nietzsche. And the writers that Nietzsche mentions, and we note that he mentions less writers than he reads. He doesn't wear all his influences on his sleeves for that very purpose, because he realizes that in his own writing, that is sufficient. So therefore, I argue that we can live by Nietzsche's writings. In my own case, many times, I've looked into other thinkers, other cultures, other lines of thought, whether related to Nietzsche or in contradiction to Nietzsche, but I always come back to Nietzsche, because I find in Nietzsche I have something that I find rarely anywhere else. I find that cohesive, almost, I want to say honest, but that in a way simplifies the message, because Nietzsche's message is far beyond truth and honesty. Nietzsche's message goes beyond such simplifications into real complexities. And yet it has a solid foundation. It's not the kind of relativism that some of his critics talk about. It has a very solid foundation. And yet it doesn't take for granted, it doesn't simplify, it doesn't fall into the trap of ideologies. It always asks questions and leaves questions open and furthers questioning. It is a true philosophy in that sense. It's not a mere ideology. And yet, as I say, it has that core. Is Zarathustra that core? is Zarathustra the first non-metaphysical God? Or rather, does Zarathustra present the first non-metaphysical God, the first realistic version of what was called God? In other words, in the yearning for the Superman as the next species, rising above the human into the superhuman, this very real yearning, do we not have here a new kind of spiritualism, which is based very much on the realities that we experience in the post-mortem world of the dead God? And in Nietzsche's quest for the higher man as a presage to the Superman, in the descriptions of higher men and the formulations for becoming a more complete human, do we not therefore have a complete way of life for creating those who turned out well and trying to replicate that formula onward into a way of life? And in the sense of creativity, don't we therefore have a philosophy which embraces creativity in whatever branch of the arts may one want to go to, whether one is a musician or visual artist or an actor or a dancer or any of the forms of art? One can do this thoroughly as a Nietzschean, living by Nietzschean principles. And indeed, as we have seen in some recent talks, one can also approach politics via the writings of Nietzsche, the great politics, the sort of politics that are once more hoving into view as the Western world starts to fall and will fall evermore. And out of the ashes of that Western world will come great politics. And yes, the Nietzscheans surviving that great fall and Holocaust, the survivors, the Nietzschean survivors, will have on their lips the message of the superhuman.